Hello, everyone. My name is Kashawn Hopkins. I'm an instructional technology specialist from Oklahoma Public School Resource Center. And today I'm here to talk about meaningfully constructing knowledge. And I'm going to do that through the lens of Canva. So yeah, really excited to go over this. I've been doing a sort of series on different concepts, and from the ones that I've been doing recently have been about some of the ISTE standards. So I've already done collaboration. I've already done being a good digital citizen. And I feel like they really, I think they're so well crafted that each of them have something to do with the other ones here. But in particular, this one, meaningfully constructing knowledge, is a good one to really expand on. So excited to unpack that. But before I do, I just want to give some space. I'm joined here with my colleague. You will want to hear from him. So I think it's a good chance to do that. Go ahead.
Hello, I'm Kirk Barnhart. I'm the Director of Technology for OPSRC. Kashawn and I make up the technology team here. We're here to help you with any of your technology needs. Just reach out to us.
Yep. And you can reach out to us through techteam@opsrc.net. That'll shoot us an email, and both of us will receive it and try to get back to you as soon as we can. Moreover, if you're here in the live session, you can get the slides that I have here. I recommend that you grab them, bookmark them, download them, do whatever you want to do with them. They got all sorts of resources attached inside of them. And so I think they're good. I'm going to read this off since it is case sensitive. So it's going to be lowercase t period ly / lowercase t uppercase k 64. And if you want, if you're viewing them through the recording, you can get access to the slides through our TechTalks page. And so that's on opsrc.net /TechTalks. If you go there, you get a page that looks something like this. We have our upcoming Tech Talks. We have a place for you to suggest future tech topics or tools. We have our archive Tech Talks. So if you missed out on our last two Tech Talks that we did in this series that we've done, you can view them there. Each one of these has a video that we recorded, for example, recording this one, and they have the presentation slides with relevant resources to whatever topic that we're talking about. And I've done not just technology standards, but tech integration models, special interest topics, and individual tech tools. And if you are unfamiliar with Canva, I recommend that you might want to pause this one because I'm going to just assume that you're already familiar with Canva. You might want to check out the other Tech Talks that I've done. There was one that I did at the beginning of the year, just on like the Canva Basics license. And then we got our hands on an education one. So if you are a K-12 educator, there's actually essentially like free pro accounts. They're called education accounts. And they are configured in a certain way to try to help support educators. But I highly recommend, if you're a teacher and you can verify it in some way, like you have access to your teaching license on here, you can get an account for you, and you can get accounts for your students as well. And so I did a separate one on that one, just talking about once you have the account, how to set up your classroom, how to get your students in there, make assignments, all that. So great stuff with this and the first Canva. And I love this tool so much, so I'm happy I would gladly keep talking about it. And I think this tool is a fantastic example on how to meaningfully construct knowledge. And so I'll try to argue a bit of that. And I've included a link for Canva if you need it there. So let's start unpacking here. There's quite a bit to cover. First of all, my objective, so we have a clear idea of what we're shooting for here. After this Tech Talk, educators will be able to integrate Canva into the classroom to help students construct knowledge, produce creative artifacts, and make meaningful learning experiences. So hold on to those three ideas there because we're going to use it throughout this Tech Talk that I have here. A schedule, so we have a clear idea on how this time is going to be used. Speaking of which, forgot to set my timer, but that's all right. We'll bar pocket there. We have the ISTE standard that I pulled this from. Of course, it's called the Knowledge Constructor. We're going to start with that. Then we're going to connect that standard to the tool that I'm spotlighting here, which is Canva. It's not necessarily the only tool. I just would argue that this is a tool that does it well. And in fact, you can bring in other tools to help supplement this, or you can pick an entirely different tool. And in fact, the standard itself suggests that students become familiar with a variety of tools so they have options and they can make those choices. And that's also something we'll talk about in a future Tech Talk. But next is me taking the standards and taking a look at these substandards that when you break down that full standard, very much like content standards, it breaks it down into these small targets that you can shoot for. So we'll talk about that. And then we'll pull it all together by connecting some Canva applications to those substandards. We'll wrap that up into that. And then finally, the last couple of pages are dedicated to resources and just kind of wrapping up this Tech Talk. Any last thoughts that I might have at the time I have available? All right, that's our schedule there. So this is the ISTE standard. The third one, I have a link to it on the bottom left-hand corner of the slide. If you go to the standards page itself, if you've never been here, all 7 standards are here. You have its name, its definition. If you click on it, you get these sub-standards on there, which we will get back to. And another extra resource that I want to make sure people know is that these little video icons, if you click on them, you get a little playlist describing each substandard in a little bit more detail. And if you hover over these vocabulary words, they go into a little bit more detail. So make sure you have a pretty good understanding of each one of these. So I've pulled the definition here. And that's what you see here. And then we're going to break this down a little bit. So just to read it off, so we have the same thing. Students critically curate a variety of resources using digital tools to construct knowledge, produce creative artifacts, and make meaningful learning experiences for themselves and others. So taking a look and why I think this is important and how you can accomplish all of these different tasks here. First of which, the action that students are doing is curating. So this involves taking all that information that students have access to. You know, they pop up their phone, they go on a laptop, they get on a computer. As soon as they're connected to the internet, they have a world of resources. And so they need to take an opportunity to really figure out meaningful strategies on figuring out how do I navigate all of this information that I have access to. And then from there, once they find that information, how do we know that this information is actually useful and relevant and it's going to lead up to something important to me. So that's the student saying that. And once they do that and make those collections, how can we take all of that information that we've collected and the good information and being able to share it with others? And so I feel like these 3 products that come out of curating represent different parts of the process. Like if you're constructing a knowledge, this is something that is done. The way that I interpret this is something that's happening internally. This is you receiving information and making sense of it. You're making these connections to things that you've learned before, or you're connecting it and just trying to make this connect to something that's meaningful to you. And next, you produce a creative artifact. You're producing something is coming from that knowledge. It's not just staying in your head. Now it's in front of you. Now it's something tangible that you can manipulate, organize, and then hopefully take it up to the next level, which is make a meaningful learning experience. And I think this really puts in this part over here that I've italicized, is that this information is not just owned by you. This is information with the intention of sharing that out. And I think I think having an experience where you learn something new and keeping it to yourself is really a disservice to that information there. So this whole time, the intention is to eventually share it out. You make sense of it and then share it out. So yeah, just really taking advantage of knowledge and sharing out and getting the most value that you can possibly get out of this. So this is why I think this standard is important. Canva. So I think Canva, I'm taking those three things that come out of attempting to curate a variety of resources, the constructing knowledge, the producing artifacts, and making and putting it here and connecting it to real tangible things that you can do inside of Canva. And there's tons of examples with it. I've even included, special to Canva itself, examples of templates that I think you can look through and take advantage of to accomplish these different just tangible things. So these are things that I want you to be able to walk away with. And after this tech talk, feel comfortable on trying these out and having students have something active for them to do to really explore this standard and take advantage of it. So first of which, constructing knowledge. So this is students receiving some kind of new piece of information and then building in a way that is meaningful for them. And I think the activity that can accomplish that is either having them select a template, like if they already feel comfortable with Canva, if you've already been using it, then having them select a template is a no-brainer there. There's a whole section dedicated to that, which we'll switch over to that in a minute. If you don't think your students are there, that's totally fine. Everybody's at a different place, and that's all right. You can assign them one and really explicitly focus on what is the purpose of selecting this particular template? What will this template accomplish for you? And so I've picked the example whiteboard and mind maps, which I'll go over to Canva over here. So I'm already logged in. I have an education account. I know that because I have the classroom setting on the left-hand side with the little graduation cap on there that's only available for education accounts. If I select the second option on my left side navigation bar where it says templates, swap me over to that. And I'm going to try to make this a little bigger maybe. Yeah, there we go. So there is a section dedicated to education. You don't necessarily have to use it. There's other stuff in the other sections, but I'm going to go over to filters under category, under education, and there's loads of options of things that are worth exploring. Something that I believe that I said in both of my Canvas tech talks is spend some time with the templates. There is an outrageous amount of starting points for you that will really save you time instead of just building something completely new. There's stuff that's already in here that can start generating ideas. And I said online whiteboard was one that you should take advantage of because it's filled with things like brainstorm sections, cause and effect, ways to think through math problems, KWL charts, that you can take advantage of. And so there are, and reflection sections. And so there's loads of stuff that you can just go in, you can click, you can see how it's built together. If this is not exactly what you want, that's fine. It will recommend different options for you that are similar to these, like mind maps, but just a way to take an idea that even if it's not complex to you, it might be complex to the student, and they just need a way to break it down in a real tangible concrete way. And this is, I think, is an easy way to do this, is by taking advantage of all of these templates. And then once they start to once students, and this is why I suggest that you try to move it up to the point where students pick their own template. Once that gets to that point, students are going to naturally gravitate towards a way that will help them internally organize information and make sense of it. And ideally, what you want is to see is students, as soon as they hear a new piece of information, they're like, okay, cool. I already have this KWL chart that already is going to help me organize my stuff. And they don't even, like, making a decision is not even part of the process anymore. It's just like something that they will instinctively do and fall back on. and they will have these strategies that are available to them. So that's the ideal there. Cool. Something I did want to point out, they do have mind maps inside of the education section, but I believe it's housed under the business section. So if you don't see mind maps there, if you click on business and then mind map, you can see tons of little mind maps on here. Great stuff. Really good things inside of the business section, because I mean, you're dealing with information all the time and having to organize it and look for good information. So it's worth looking at the other filters as well. But, you know, a great place to start, of course, would be the education section. Cool. Producing artifacts, I would say, is the next thing. So this is something with, I believe is the intention of creating something with the information that you just made sense of. So in this case, I'd say students insert what they've learned inside of templates. This is them selecting and actually getting into this. And this is something that I think makes a real good proof of learning actually happening. This makes it a little bit more tangible here. I selected storyboards, excuse me, and infographics. I think infographics are really easy to just take those templates, rip out the text that are in them and just place the text in there yourself. But I'm going to show off a little bit of storyboards here, also under the education section. And this just makes, if you want students to be telling stories in some way, because stories is an easy, I think by virtue of a solid story structure and planning it out, I think that is a really easy way to make connections with a bunch of ideas in a way that is meaningful and in a way that you know, an audience can connect to. That's why I'm really envious of like my dad and my boss of OPSRC. They're fantastic storytellers, and they just naturally draw people in. And I think students cultivating that idea that they can build a story out is a powerful boon. So yeah, they can select storyboards and get a clear idea on how stories are created and how to have an idea of how stories are structured on here. Tons of ideas here. And then finally, making learning experience on here. So this is where you need to bring in the audience here. This is where if you're already building that digital citizenship, or you want to do that, or if you want to create experiences where students are collaborating with each other, I think this is where this standard makes a plea to the other standards. They're saying like, hey, come in here. Students should share those artifacts. They should invite critiques coming in. And this also on students on the other end, if they have the opportunity to critique the others, they can start bringing in ideas and other perspectives that they would have never considered. It's like looking and watching somebody do a puzzle and thinking, why are they doing it that way? And then realizing, you know, they aren't you. They're going to really make those connections and meaning for themselves, but when they see it from others, they're able to view it from a different perspective there. So I think videos and presentations is a powerful way to create something that is purposeful and summative at the same time. And so yeah, under the education section, the very first two options, in fact, are presentation, the standard kind of like PowerPoints type stuff. But the great thing about these is it gives students some kind of structure to start with. So like, for example, I think, let's go with types of clouds. You know, this is like, hey, dedicate a section to an objective. Hey, check these ideas out. They might not be able to use, this one is less templated probably, but it at least gives them an idea of like, oh, I should probably think about images that will reinforce the message that's on there. So at least having some kind of like continuity between different pieces of content. So it really kind of depends. You'll have to look through and see which templates look great and which ones will be more useful to you. And then videos, it does a very similar thing where you select the topic on there, and they have different slides dedicated to, I guess it depends on what type of video you have on here, but they have different slides with videos on them that can help organize that information. All right, let's break this down just a little bit more. We have substandards. I closed it, but we have substandards under every standard here. So we've just broken it down just a little bit, the main description of the standard itself. But when you click on it, you have these little substandards, and you can think of these very much like the content standards as goals to shoot for. So I have paraphrased all of these on this page over here. So the first one would be use research strategies to locate information here. And the next one is evaluate information using many criteria. After that is curate information to create meaningful collections. And you want to build knowledge by exploring issues, developing ideas, and pursuing solutions, which we'll go more into these in a second. I have emphasized the build knowledge part because I've taken all 4 of these and shrunken them down just a little bit more into a little bit more bite-sized pieces and put it on the next page. I did change the wording of build knowledge a little bit to try to encompass everything that I've said there for the last substandard there. So I've changed build knowledge to apply information. I think it looks quite nice standing next to those other substandards here. So with the time remaining here, I do want to point out the connection between the applications that we've already talked about on the left-hand side. So these are like real tangible things that you can do with your students right now, assuming that you have, the classroom set up for Canva. Which if you haven't, like if you've been using like a basic account up to this point and you're familiar with Canva through that way, and you're a K-12 teacher, I've actually included the steps to get yourself a classroom on through the goodies section. So just wanted to point that out, and I'll show you that in a minute. But I just want to emphasize the connection between the applications that we've talked about and those substandards that I have brought up here. So starting with the first one, being able to locate information. So this one is probably these first two, in fact, that not entirely sure Canva fits with this like in a one-to-one type situation. But the idea is that if you are able to get that information, you're able to do something a little bit more onto this. So I would say that Canva more and fits with these last two over here, being able to curate information in a meaningful way and able to take that information and use it for something very specific. So curate information on there. We've already talked about being able, the power of being able to select a template on here. There's tons of options, and giving students a starting point on there helps, and really emphasizing what is the purpose of each one of these templates is something that is going to help them build like a collection of strategies for them to rely on. And these different templates, like especially through like this online whiteboard section on there, these are things that students can easily draw out themselves. If they're having trouble with the technology, like it's real easy to just build out a Venn diagram and talk through some of these, or take a look at this mind mapping. These are just a bunch of boxes with labels on them. So if your students, if you feel like you need to, take a break from the technology and bring in something that students and make it just like a little extra level of tangible, that is fine. I think these templates are simple enough. But then if you want to help elevate or help enhance for them, these options are always here for them to use, or you could use your teacher account to assign these students out. Especially if you've already using things like Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams, you can use the LMS integrations to push out some of these templates for students to try. The other substandard I think Canva fits in pretty well with is is applying information. section on there. And I think these two, the two applications that we have here fit quite nicely with this. So, yeah, so taking their information and assuming it's not for them, like take this and turn this into something that you can share, and not just be shared, but it's something that people are going to engage with in some way. And that engagement is also going to work back and produce something that is going to be higher quality and more inclusive than it would be if it just stayed in a little bubble by itself. And so, yeah, I think these two fit quite well on this one. And these are all things like, in fact, all of these applications, you could potentially do this all in one classroom. You don't necessarily have to, but you can really reach out and take advantage of the systems that are already built on Canva, which is why I speak so highly of it, is because it's easy to sort of pick up and you can get to a lot of those features on there. And you're doing it in a kind of a fun, creative way, instead of having like a block of text of information, which can be useful in certain situations. You could probably put more information on something. It's communicating visually is about taking what's important and really putting that on a pedestal and saying, okay, take a look at this, and then making connections between those main ideas and other main ideas. Now, from Canva itself, it might be a little bit harder to get these two substandards. So this is why I was talking about a little bit before in the very beginning of the Tech Talks, that you may need to supplement your tools, and that's totally fine. There's other things that will helpful for these, like, you know, having students figure out search engines, or looking at very specific strategies on trying to take a look at a piece of information, figuring out if it's credible, if it's reliable, what type of voice does it have, what kind of bias does it have embedded into it. And so yeah, it's worth taking a look and seeing what other tools can fit inside of Canva. And that would actually be something really great to talk about, if not only with your colleagues, but with us as well. We would love to hear how you would supplement this tool to fit these other substandards here. And that's all right. Okay, nearly out of time here, everyone. Thank you so much. If you've listened to me up to this point, I really do appreciate it. I hope this was a valuable use of your time, or at least something that got the wheels turning for you. The last little bits that I have here is a page dedicated completely to Canva. All of these resources, either you getting ideas or you making some beginning steps. Something that I've also included is this one-page resource for setting up your classroom. This is something that I've pulled from an article that I really spelled out and tried to link resources. And so this was like the one page that I think was really great, that I feel proud of, that I did for the Canva for Education Tech Talk. And so I think you can get a lot of value out of this if you haven't been using education accounts up to this point. I have another page that's dedicated to technology integration. It's I do have the ISTE standards up here at the top, which I obviously use. The rest of this is dedicated to technology integration frameworks, which I mentioned and I implicitly used, but I don't think I explicitly pointed out I use this for that. And so this is worth taking a look at. If you have an opportunity, I think this will help you really expand and see kind of where I was coming from on these little arguments that I've made for how to use these technology standards and how to use applications that already have these ideas built into them. And then finally, my last page here, huge thank you for everybody here. Thank you, Kurt, for being here for this Tech Talk here. I'm hoping that I shared some ideas to really think on and continue to build the way that you look at this information, how students construct knowledge. if you want to reach out to us and talk about any of this stuff, unpack anything, or if I said something wild that you want to hash out, that's totally fine. Shoot us an email at techteam@opsrc.net. We would love to hear from you. You can also get more of these Tech Talks through our Tech Talk page, opsrc.net/Tech Talks. I do have an evaluation. Please take a moment to fill that out. I would love to hear from you. And if you want the rest of the organization to hear from you, or anybody else in our community, you can contribute through our little social media buttons that we have down there. Be a good knowledge constructor by sharing what you know on there. I'm sure other educators would feel what you have to share is valuable. So with that, thank you so much, everybody. I look forward to doing the next Tech Talk, and have a great day.